Welcome to Realty Talk, the show that brings together the country's most authoritative and respected property experts. Follow us on all the socials and subscribe for updates and exclusive offers. Realty Talk is powered by realty.com.au, connecting buyers, sellers and agents differently.
Hello and welcome to another one in our summer series of auction updates for CoreLogic. Cate Bakos is joining us in this wonderful series, and we've covered a lot of territory. Today we're going to cover the part that a lot of people neglect, and that is negotiating before the auction. Yes, you can negotiate before the auction. You can actually purchase a property, but is it the smartest thing to do? Cate Bakos is a buyer's agent. She works out of the Melbourne market, and she has to face these dilemmas every week, every day in fact. Cate, how are you? Every single day. Cate, let's talk about this. Let's talk about negotiating, and I mean, we all know that, and we covered this last week in the show, where you can negotiate, a lesser deposit, you can negotiate a longer settlement term or a shorter settlement term. But what about buying the property on your terms prior to auction? Is that going to be possible, or are we going to have to be prepared to pay a premium price to stop the auction?
Great question. And the critical thing here is that every auction campaign is so very unique. And so in some circumstances, it's a great idea, and in others, it's terrible. And then you've got the few auctions that can't be bought prior. And the biggest mistake that buyers face or make is that they assume that if the price is right, or if the price is in excess of the quoted range, that they can step forward with an offer and try and bully the vendor and the agent into selling it to them, and it doesn't work that way. So in some cases, an auction has to run to auction day. That might be a mortgagee sale or a divorce settlement where it's a court order, and there's a few other quirks that will determine that the auction has to run. In other circumstances though, the campaign might be going really well, in which case the agent might not want to bring it to a head prior, because there's a lot on offer for a good agent if they host a fantastic auction and everyone's there seeing them do their craft and they get a record price. That's some of the best publicity they could ever organise for themselves. So you've got that facet where the agent might want to have their day in the sun. You've then also got vendors that are quite excited by the idea of auction, and believe it or not, there are some out there. Most are terrified of it and they're quite apprehensive, but you do get a few vendors that have made that decision, they're running to auction day. Yeah. So trying to get the agent to enable you to purchase it prior is a mistake when you're trying to force something that is going to be very hard to force. And then in some cases where the agent says to you, well, if the offer's strong enough to blow their socks off, I'll sell it prior. You've got to ask yourself if you really want to be the buyer that blows someone's socks off, because it's not how I want to do business. Yeah. So working out what is the advantage in putting an offer forward is the critical question. And if I think that I can move forward with an offer when other buyers aren't quite ready, and typically it's finance that gets in the way for other buyers, if I think that I can pull things to a head and buy a property for a fair price and knock out the buyers that might have challenged me on auction day because they're not ready, that's one good reason to buy prior. And if I also think that by putting my offer forward, I'm in control of the negotiation process in the face of competition, that's another good reason to do it. Because what you don't want to do is trigger a sale and then have the agent say to everyone, you've got one chance and one chance only to submit your best and highest, because then you've lost your opportunity to fight for the property. You've got to pay some mystical price. You might pip someone by $100, but they might pip you by $100. Or you could pip them by $50,000, and it never rests comfortably with buyers when they're flying blind in a scenario like that.
Yeah, there's a danger for both sides, both the seller and the buyer, in showing their hand before the auction. One, for the buyer, you're indicating to the seller and to the agent probably what your price is. And not many agents will let their sellers come back and make a counter offer unless they're very close. Because they don't really want to give any indication out about what the reserve is. So it really is a dangerous area to work in, Cate, and I think people can get very easily upset because they don't understand fully what the process is.
Yeah, I often say to buyers, don't start something that you might not be able to finish. You've got to understand what you're walking into and how to navigate this. And it gives way to another reason why we would support putting in an offer prior to auction when the circumstances are right. And that is if a buyer has their heart set on 2 properties and the property that they prefer goes second. Because if they wait for that property, they've lost their Plan B opportunity. So if we can switch Plan A and Plan B to give them 2 bites at the cherry, that can be an opportunistic way to help someone buy when they're under time pressure, or the 2 properties that they've set their sights on are really high scorers for them.
Mm. The other risk too in making an offer prior to auction is that, and as you've already identified, you're opening it up for the agent to go back to any other interested party and say, look, there is another offer on the table. This is your opportunity to put your best and final offer forward. You may find out that you're in some sort of a Dutch auction, which is worse than being in an auction on the floor, because at least on the floor you can see who the bidders are.
Yeah, it's transparent. You'll never really know in those closed envelope situations whether you're the only bidder. Yeah. And it's a dangerous place to be if you haven't done your homework.
Yeah, indeed. Always great advice. Cate Bakos is a buyer's agent out of Melbourne. This is the Auction Update Summer Series, brought to you by CoreLogic. Kate will be back again with us, thank goodness, next week to give us another wonderful insight. Kate, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Miss something in this week's show or want to catch up on past shows? Do it anytime at realty.com.au, where we connect buyers, sellers and agents differently.